Welcome to our deep dive. We're tackling a pretty intriguing topic this time around. The spirit of truth in Spiritism. And we know you want to learn more about its connection to Allan Kardec.
It's a fascinating subject.
Right. And to make things even more interesting, our main source today is an article from the Fraternidade Luz Espírita,
Yes.
a Brazilian Spiritist organization. So we're getting a specific lens on this, which could lead to some surprising insights. What do you think?
Absolutely. Understanding the perspective of the source material is crucial. It helps us interpret the information within the proper context.
Exactly. So shall we jump right in?
Let's do it.
Okay, first things first, who or what is this spirit of truth?
Well, our source explains that it's a central figure in Allan Kardec's work.
The foundation of Spiritism itself.
Right. But it's not as simple as it might seem at first glance.
Oh, I sense a story unfolding.
Many Spiritists believe the spirit of truth to be Jesus.
Okay, that makes sense.
But here's the twist.
Yeah.
Kardec doesn't explicitly say that in his first communication with this entity.
Oh, so there's some mystery right from the beginning. I love it. Tell me more about these initial interactions. What happened?
Picture this. It's March 25th, 1856. Kardec is in a seance with a medium, Ms. Baudin, and suddenly, out of nowhere, this spiritual entity makes contact. And get this, it chooses the name The Truth.
The Truth. Wow, that's direct. No messing around.
Right, and it gets even more interesting. This entity promises to be available to Kardec for a 15-minute conversation every single month.
Wait, a regularly scheduled spiritual chat? That's some serious organization. You wouldn't expect that from a spirit, would you?
It does make you think, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Was it to ensure a consistent flow of information to Kardec?
Yeah.
Or maybe give him time to process these big revelations?
Those are excellent points. It's something to think about as we go deeper into this. So the Truth, who many believe to be Jesus, becomes Kardec's guide, essentially.
Exactly, and the spirit promises to protect and guide Kardec, not only spiritually, but also in material matters, in his everyday life.
Wow, that's a fascinating detail. It really blurs the lines between the spiritual and the material, doesn't it? It's like saying that they're much more connected than we might realize. Does this have a broader implication for how spiritists live their lives?
That's a great question. It points to a holistic view. Spiritual well-being isn't separate from everyday life.
Right.
Aligning with spiritual principles, maybe is guided by the spirit of truth, could have real tangible benefits in our material world too.
So it's not just about seeking spiritual enlightenment, but also about applying those insights to everyday life to overcome challenges.
Exactly. So we know this entity chose the name The Truth. But does that stay consistent?
Yeah, good point. What happens to the name?
Well, that's where things get a bit curious. Throughout Kardec's work, the name isn't always consistent. We see variations: truth, spirit of truth, and even the spirit of truth.
Do you think those different names mean something specific, or are they just stylistic choices?
It's hard to say for sure. Maybe Kardec was grappling with how best to represent this entity, given its mysterious nature.
Yeah. This ambiguity in naming is something for our listeners to think about. Was it intentional? A way to avoid pinning down the spirit's identity too soon?
It's definitely worth considering. Now, I have to ask about something that might be on our listeners' minds, the Paraclete.
Oh, right. The Holy Spirit. In the Bible, it's also called the Spirit of Truth. Is there a connection here?
There is a connection, but Kardec makes a clear distinction. In Spiritism, the Paraclete isn't so much a single entity as it is the revelation of Spiritist doctrine itself.
So it's less about one being and more about the unfolding of spiritual knowledge as a whole.
Exactly. It's the big picture of Spiritism, not just a single figure delivering the message. And this distinction is crucial because it positions Spiritism as a continuation of Christ's teachings, but not necessarily reliant on a singular figure like Jesus for its authority.
It opens up the concept to a wider, maybe even collective spiritual influence.
Exactly. So we've got this central figure, the Spirit of Truth, and it's not definitively identified as Jesus. But why do so many Spiritists believe that's who it is?
Yeah, if it's not explicitly stated, where's the link?
Well, Kardec does make a statement where he seems to equate Jesus with the Spirit of Truth. He even calls Jesus the leader of this new revelation.
Okay, so there's the connection, even if it's not stated outright.
And there's more. Messages published in the Book of Mediums and the Gospel According to Spiritism, which are both key texts in Spiritism.
Yeah.
They feature the Spirit of Truth seemingly identifying as Jesus.
Hold on. Seemingly. Why not just come out and say it directly?
That's the intriguing part. Kardec never definitively states that the Spirit of Truth eyes Jesus, but the hints are definitely strong. He leaves room for interpretation, for personal understanding.
It's like he's inviting us to engage with the mystery and draw our own conclusions. It adds another layer to this whole exploration.
Exactly. Now, how about other Spiritists, those who came after Kardec? What's their take on this spirit of truth?
Yeah, what do they say?
Later Spiritist writings consistently refer to the spirit of truth when talking about Jesus.
So over time, that association becomes more solid.
It seems so.
Can you give us some specific examples from those later writings, something that supports this identification?
Sure. There are some compelling quotes from Kardec's works and even the Spiritist magazine, Review Spirit, that point to this connection. But it gets even more interesting when we look at messages attributed to other spirits.
Oh, like who?
Like Erastus and Hahnemann, for example.
Intriguing. What do they have to say about the spirit of truth?
They both acknowledge Jesus as the spirit of truth and the leader of Spiritism. It's like getting confirmation from multiple sources within the Spiritist world.
That's pretty powerful evidence. It sounds like there's a growing consensus among Spiritists about this connection. But are there any dissenting voices? Any alternative interpretations of who or what the spirit of truth might be?
That's a great question, and it gets to the heart of what makes Spiritism so compelling. While the majority might embrace the spirit of truth as Jesus, there's always room for individual understanding and exploration.
So it's not about blindly accepting a dogma, but rather engaging with the evidence and forming your own conclusions.
Exactly. Even if we can't definitively say that the spirit of truth is as Jesus, its role in guiding Kardec and shaping Spiritism is undeniable.
It's a fascinating paradox. The impact is real regardless of its true identity.
Exactly. And for those who do identify the spirit of truth as Jesus, it creates a link between Spiritism and Christianity, a new dimension to the Christian narrative.
It's like enriching the existing story with a new layer of understanding.
Precisely. It speaks to the evolving nature of spiritual thought, how new revelations can build upon and expand our beliefs, inviting us to see things in a fresh light.
I'm already feeling like we've just scratched the surface of a vast and complex topic here.
We definitely have. But that's the beauty of Spiritism. It encourages us to constantly learn and explore, to question, reflect, and grow in our understanding of the spiritual world.
For our listeners who have been with us on this journey so far, what would you say is the key takeaway at this point?
I think the most important thing to remember is that the true identity of the spirit of truth is ultimately open to personal interpretation within Spiritism.
There's no right or wrong answer.
It's about engaging with the evidence, the messages, and the history of Spiritism to reach your own understanding.
It's about the journey, not just the destination.
Exactly. And it reminds us that spiritual growth is an ongoing process.
Filled with questions, insights, and new perspectives. So, dear listener, if you could ask the spirit of truth one question, what would it be?
Let that question be your guide as you delve deeper into this fascinating world. Who knows, you might even receive an answer.
Now let's get back to those messages from Erastus and Hahnemann. They seem to provide the most direct link between the spirit of truth and Jesus. What exactly did they say?
Well, in a message published in the February 1868 edition of Review Spirit, Erastus refers to the spirit of truth as my Lord and yours.
My Lord and yours. Wow, that's a powerful statement.
He was speaking directly to Spiritists, acknowledging the spirit of truth's authority.
It suggests a clear hierarchy, with the spirit of truth at the very top.
Exactly. And Hahnemann takes it a step further in a message from January 1864.
Oh, what does he say?
He describes the spirit of truth not just as the leader of Spiritism, but as the director of the entire planet.
It's the director of Earth. That's a huge level of influence.
Right. He's talking about authority over the spiritual evolution of all humanity.
Wow, that's a massive concept to consider. It makes you think about the interconnectedness of everything, how the spiritual realm might be influencing events on a global scale.
Yeah.
I want to circle back for a moment to the initial interaction between the spirit of truth and Allan Kardec. When the spirit chose to remain anonymous.
Yes.
Do you think there was a reason for that initial secrecy?
It's a question that has fascinated Spiritists for a long time. One possibility is that the spirit of truth wanted Kardec and all Spiritists to have the freedom to come to their own understanding without feeling pressured by a preconceived notion of its identity.
It's like respecting our need for individual discovery and encouraging us to form our own conclusions based on the evidence and our intuition.
Exactly. It allows for a more genuine connection with the truth.
It's like the spirit of truth is saying, don't just take my word for it, explore it for yourself.
That's a great way to put it. It's about encouraging active participation in the process of spiritual growth.
Speaking of which, how has the interpretation of the spirit of truth evolved within Spiritism? Was the association with Jesus always so prevalent, or did that develop over time?
That's an excellent question. It really speaks to the dynamic nature of spiritual understanding. While the connection was present in Kardec's time, it does seem to have become more pronounced over the years.
So it's a living idea, constantly evolving.
Exactly. There are many factors. Continued study of Kardec's work, new spiritual communications, the evolution of thought within the community.
It reminds us that spiritual understanding isn't static. It's constantly being shaped by new insights and experiences.
Precisely. So we've covered a lot of ground today. We've explored the mystery, the evidence, the profound impact of this enigmatic figure.
And for our listener, this is just the beginning. There's a whole world of spiritist thought out there to explore.
Who knows, maybe you'll even encounter the spirit of truth on your own spiritual journey.
It's amazing to think about how the understanding of this concept, the spirit of truth, has evolved over time. It's like spiritual knowledge isn't just this fixed thing, right? It grows and changes as we do.
Yeah, definitely. It really shows that spirit of inquiry. Always questioning, that's at the heart of Spiritism. Always be open to new perspectives and deeper understanding.
And you mentioned earlier that the spirit of truth promised to guide Kardec, not just in spiritual matters, but in material ones too. That's something that really struck me as unique. What do you think that says about, like, the Spiritist view of the relationship between the spiritual world and the material world?
Well, it suggests a more holistic view, don't you think? Where the spiritual and material aren't seen as separate, but as interconnected,
Yeah.
influencing each other. It's as if the spirit of truth is acknowledging that our everyday experiences, they matter too, just as much as our spiritual development.
It's like having a guide who understands both sides, the spiritual and the material. It can offer help in both areas.
Yeah, exactly. And maybe, just maybe, it points to the idea that aligning ourselves with those spiritual principles can actually have a positive impact on our everyday lives as well.
I love that. It's not about seeking spiritual enlightenment and ignoring everything else. It's about bringing it into everyday life and letting it shape, our actions and decisions.
Right. Finding a balance. Our spiritual well-being is part of our overall well-being. It's all connected.
So for people who believe that the spirit of truth is Jesus, how does that change how they view Christianity?
It's a fascinating thought, isn't it? It adds a whole new layer to the Christian narrative. Like, Jesus' teachings and influence, they extend beyond just traditional Christianity. They reach into this whole other movement.
It's almost like a continuation of the mission, but in a different form, a different expression.
Exactly. It's that idea that spiritual truths can be revealed in so many ways, so many channels, not limited to just one religion or one tradition.
It challenges us to think outside of our own little boxes and be open to the idea that truth might be found in the most unexpected places.
And that open-mindedness is what Spiritism is all about. Exploration, and being willing to embrace those new perspectives.
That makes a lot of sense. But what happens when spiritists feel like they're not getting any guidance? Like when their prayers seem to go unanswered, or they're just not feeling a sense of direction?
That's something everyone experiences sometimes, and spiritists are no different. But instead of seeing that as a failure or a sign they've been abandoned, they often see it as a chance to strengthen their faith, to trust that things will work out in the right time, to maybe step back and look at things differently.
So those moments of uncertainty are opportunities for growth, for self-reflection.
Precisely. They're reminders that spiritual growth isn't always a straight line. There will be times of doubt, times of confusion. So those can be valuable lessons too,
Lessons in patience, perseverance, and learning to trust in something bigger than ourselves.
Exactly. It's about trusting the process, even when it's tough. And often, it's when we surrender to that uncertainty that we open ourselves to the deepest insights.
This has been a really eye-opening discussion about how the teachings of the Spirit of Truth are woven into the lives of Spiritists today. It's clear these aren't just abstract concepts. They have a real influence on how people live and make choices.
Absolutely. It's a testament to how powerful these teachings can be, offering guidance, comfort, and inspiration in a world that often feels confusing and unpredictable.
And to our listeners, we hope this deep dive has given you a glimpse into the world of Spiritism and the role the Spirit of Truth plays within it.
If you're curious about what you've heard today, explore more. Read Kardec's work, connect with other Spiritists, and most importantly, Trust your own intuition as you search for truth in your life.
So well said. Who knows, maybe you'll even encounter the spirit of truth on your own spiritual journey.
The possibilities are endless. Until next time, keep seeking, keep questioning, and keep the conversation going.